You are now listening to the A2J2 podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the A2J2 podcast. And as you can see, we have a different look this evening. Happy St. Patrick's Day, guys.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Drink up.
Indeed.
I'm not wearing green.
I wasn't all day and I changed into this. So as you can see, new fan favorite Jared Holloway is joining us tonight in place of Andrew Hill, who has other plans. So he has so graciously agreed to jump in and be our fourth tonight. But as always, I am joined by Jordan Ison and Austin Curtis. I am James White. Today, we're going to talk a little NFC or NFL free agency. That's been dominating the ESPN cycle over the past week, regardless of the fact that the NCAA tournament has started. It seems like you see free agency everywhere. Some really wild stuff going on. Actually, a huge trade happened last week before we met, and we didn't discuss it because of our plan to do Masketology. But last Friday, the Bears traded the first pick to the Panthers for a slew of picks, and they also acquired DJ Moore. I think that this is a absolutely ridiculous fleecing by the Bears. They got 4 picks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
4 picks total.
Two first rounders?
Something like that. I mean, just a fleecing. And they get their best wide receiver in DJ Moore, a guy who can make Justin Fields' life a heck of a lot easier. And then this week, amongst other people, but the 2 huge signings for the Bears that I have are you got Tremaine Edmonds and you got TJ Edwards. So you've shored up your defense. You've given your franchise quarterback a weapon that he can play with, and you're still playing around with a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
So I think that the Bears are really putting some work in, and if I was a Bears fan, I'd be really excited.
Yeah, I think it's obviously like a huge trade because it's the number 1 overall pick, right?
Yeah.
But I think the big winner in that trade is Justin Fields, because what I've seen from Justin Fields is just pure talent. The dude's incredible, and he just has lacked weapons. And so you finally get DJ Moore. DJ Moore had nearly 900 yards last season, 7 touchdowns with quarterbacks like Sam frickin' Darnold, right? You give him Justin Fields, that's going to be dangerous. But actually, the one thing I wanted to talk about, I think it's a win for both teams, because I don't see the Panthers heading in the direction of success in the near future. And so them being able to go out and get their future quarterback, I think is big for them. So they can go out and get whoever they want. And yes, they're going to suck for 3 to 4 years, but we've seen that with other rookie quarterbacks where they get into situations. Even Justin Fields, first couple years, he didn't have a team around him. Then all of a sudden, the next few years, even if you suck, you start to acquire draft picks. You start to pick up players and whatnot to build around that quarterback. So I don't hate the trade for the Panthers either, but I think it's just a huge trade for the Bears. The Bears, they had a lot of cap space, and they really took advantage of it, took advantage of that number 1 overall pick, which is a very valuable asset. But I think the big winner is Justin Fields.
And to reiterate on that point, it's the exact blueprint that you just saw work with Miami and Philadelphia. They both did it. They took a second-year quarterback out of college. He's going into his 3rd year. You give him a star wide receiver, and look what happens to him. It was an increase of 1,300 yards for Jalen Hurts. It was an increase of 2,100 yards for Tua, but Tua really didn't play that whole year. Doesn't really count, but it's a boom in their offensive production, and it's exactly what you need to do. It's the blueprint for the future. You have that rookie deal, bring in a big wide receiver, and I think the real winner out of it isn't even Justin Fields. It's DJ Moore. He gets to escape. He's had crap his entire career, and he finally gets to go to something, have a little offensive production. I take him as the big winner of this.
I just hope they can get something with their offensive line. I mean, they still have draft picks and stuff this year, obviously. I think they just need to go all out on the offensive line. I mean, I know Fields can use his legs and stuff, but we've seen it with Lamar Jackson. You use your legs too much, you get hurt. So I hope the protection around him is good, because the weapons are starting to get there. So yeah, I think it's huge for him.
Also, it's interesting with the Panthers trading up. We obviously know that they're going to take a quarterback, and they've answered the question of who's going to be their running back for the next few years, signing Miles Sanders this week. As an Eagles fan, I hated to see him leave. He's a Pennsylvania guy. He went to Penn State, has just gotten better every year with the Eagles, but at the end of the day, it's really hard to justify paying a running back in this market, in this league, especially when Kenny Gainwell did what he did in the playoffs, and then you go and you acquire Rashad Penny, who was having a fairly successful season early on until he was injured. So, you know, you're going to get your quarterback. You've got a running back. It's interesting to. I just don't know what the Panthers are going to do at receiver, but there's plenty of guys you can take later in the draft. So,
Agreed. And I think the big thing for the Panthers is exactly that. I think the loser in that trade, like I said, I think the Bears win and the Panthers win, but the big loser in that trade is whoever the Panthers draft, because that poor quarterback is going to have no weapons. So, you know, I mean, I'm not saying maybe 3 years down the road, maybe they can figure it out, but his rookie year he's going to struggle just because they have nothing around him.
Jared, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, man. You know, I was trying to prepare some notes earlier today, and I really only prepared a few notes, and I think the main note that I kind of prepared on was the Aaron Rodgers trade to the Jets, which is the next like speaking point that you have pulled up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think realistically, like with that whole situation, you guys just told me that he hadn't actually been confirmed just yet. But I think if he does, then I think, you know, the Jets will it'll probably be a year or so, but if they spend time like actually getting players around him to make him happy, I think you'll see a comeback of the Jets and like it can actually be a good program in football once again.
Yeah, that's a good little segue.
Yeah, because the Jets are like one of those teams that, I mean, everybody just kind of laughs at, right? And so they kind of needed to make that splash. I mean, I understand it's kind of a risky move for him because you never know what Aaron Rodgers you're going to get. I mean, we've seen him be a drama queen or whatnot. And to go on your note of we don't know if it's confirmed or not, it's essentially confirmed. I mean, Rodgers said he wants to go there. The Packers want to get rid of him. They just have to figure out compensation, especially with Alan Lazard signing with the Jets too. I mean, he's been Aaron Rodgers' top receiver for the past 2 or 3 years. So, but the one thing about that trade, and I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait to see Jordan Love. I can't wait to see him in Green Bay. I think that he's going to be really good. And honestly, I think the Packers are just trying to go down a route of a non-dramatic quarterback because they haven't had that since before Brett Favre. So they're just like, get us out from Aaron Rodgers, get us into something new. Yeah, they may struggle for a few years, but I think Jordan Love will be really good.
But was Brett Favre not a pretty dramatic?
He was.
Yeah, that's why I said before Brett Favre.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they didn't have they had all the drama through Brett Favre,
I see
Aaron
what you're
Rodgers.
saying now.
Yeah, so
I got you.
When we got to see Jordan Love play against the Eagles on Sunday Night Football this year, and I mean, he looked pretty good. You know, he's not a bad quarterback. He's serviceable. It's funny to see history repeat itself though, because what's going on with Rodgers is exactly what went on with Favre. You know, you drafted a young guy, you're letting him, you know, sit behind your veteran quarterback who's kind of declining, and he can still play at a high level, but you want to give the keys to this new guy.
Right.
So it's very interesting to see history repeat itself. And how ironic is it that Rodgers is literally going to the team that Favre went to? If all this goes through, like, is he going to be a Viking after next year?
Right.
Like, I mean, it's interesting. And, you know, Aaron Rodgers, I realized that he didn't have a lot of weapons around him this past year. You know, Lazard was his top guy. But I know he won MVP a couple of years ago, but I feel like he's regressed.
It was the year, but it was the year before last. Like this last season and the year before that, he won back-to-back MVPs.
My question to his regression, though, does it have anything to do with his thumb injury? Because he had a thumb injury all year this year, and so I wonder if that had something to do with it. Or maybe he just wasn't interested because we heard about all the trade rumors last year, so maybe he just didn't care this season. Maybe this move will rejuvenate him. I don't know.
I think the biggest difference is he didn't have Devontae Adams this year.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's obviously a huge difference, yeah.
And I know, you know, Devontae Adams had a huge year this year, but he didn't have the year that he's had in the past. They didn't see as much winning. So I realized that they made each other better. And, you know, the Jets, their defense was really good this year. You saw them just keep them in games and have Zach Wilson go out there and be just abysmal and Mike White getting absolutely killed. You better get a line that can protect Aaron Rodgers. That's something that you have to do. But if they can keep him protected, I think that he has infinitely better weapons I mean, you bring his best weapon. I mean, minus the rookie that they took out of North Dakota State, but Alan Lazard's been his most Christian Watson. Alan Lazard's been one of his main guys. He's going to get Garrett Wilson
and Brees Hall.
He's coming back off an injury, and then you have that defense. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. I heard on ESPN radio this week people saying that with Rodgers to the Jets, then they expect them to be the favorites in that division, and I think that's ridiculous because the Buffalo Bills still exist.
Well, here's the thing is their defense is so good. Like, their defense is easily one of the best in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so if you add any sort of offense, I mean, you got to remember last season they were in the postseason race with Zach Wilson, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you add Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if he's mediocre Aaron Rodgers. I think his record is 80-10 when his defense allows less than 20 points. I mean, that Jets defense can do that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them go out and win that division. But to say they're the favorite, that's a little much.
Do you think his regression has anything to do with his age? Because I feel like Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he's definitely getting up there in age. So, like, the past year, whether it be thumb injury or nobody kind of surrounding him, maybe he's feeling like, I'm getting too old to be doing this kind of stuff constantly, or like trying to go for these MVP roles.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to turn 40 next season.
I think it's. Go ahead, Austin.
Also, I'm just going to say he's just does a lot of drugs. That
can
be a lot of it too.
That's also true. The ayahuasca.
You do enough drugs, you're gonna lose a little bit of brain cells.
Really following that Aaron Rodgers or the Brett Favre path.
Somebody
check his emails.
Also,
also, just want to point out, I got to take my victory lap here. There was 4 gentlemen on February 2nd that were sitting in this exact call that we decided we were going to call where quarterbacks were going to end up, and there was one of us who said that he would end up in New York City on the Jets, and it was me. I said that right here.
You also said Tom Brady was going to San Francisco, and
that ain't over yet.
I understand.
Give me my time. Give me my time. Let me cook. And then I want to make one more comment about Rodgers. You talked about it, James. You said that he never had the weapons that he needed in Green Bay because he always complained that they would never draft sufficient weapons. But then the first thing he gets to a new team he asks for is the exact same weapons he had on that team. Like, you can't complain about it and then ask for the same thing back.
Maybe that's part of his play, though, is he knows that he hasn't been good with those people in the past, but the blame's not getting put on him. He's able to say, oh, well, it's, these other people. So now he's getting drafted. So now he's like, well, just in case if I come over here and mess up, at least I have this thing to fall back on. Where like, yeah, well, you drafted the same people I was playing bad with last year. What do you expect?
Well, I think that's a decent point because, like, my question about this is there are going to be a lot of high expectations in New York. There always are, no matter what. If you get a star player, like when Brett Favre went to the Jets, same thing, huge expectations. If Aaron Rodgers chokes the way he normally does in playoffs, I mean, let's be honest, he's one of the greatest of all times. He has won Super Bowl, and he has a losing record in the playoffs. That's unacceptable. If he goes to New York and say they go, 13-4, right? They win the division, first round, they get bounced. Or, conference championship, whatever, they get bounced. How does the New York media take him then? How do the Jets fans see him then? Do they see it as worth whatever they're going to trade, whatever salary cap hit they're going to take? Is it worth it then?
Well, I think that there's 2 ways to look at that. They haven't been to the playoffs in over a decade.
Yeah.
So if he gets you into the playoffs, you win 13 games, and you have this upward trajectory, then you can be appreciative. But at the same time, if you're making a trade like this, you want it to be a Tom Brady trade.
Championship or nothing, right?
Right. It's like when Tom Brady signed with the Bucks, when the Rams mortgaged their entire draft to get Matt Stafford. I mean, it worked for those.
Yeah.
Now I realize Tom Brady signed in free agency, but that's what you're expecting. So I think at the end of the day, the answer to your question is definitely yes. They will crucify him if he does the same thing, just because of the way that they are.
If they do crucify him, does he then fake retire again and go to Minnesota and replace Kirk Cousins?
He might.
Literally follow the entire Brett Favre train.
Kirk Cousins' contract is up after this year, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
This is his contract year. That would literally fall perfectly into line. That would be just filthy. Oh my god, I want it. I want it so bad with the turmoil here. I want
I
it.
don't want him throwing to Justin Jefferson.
Oh,
That's
he would be. Remember, Brett Favre had Sidney Jones and Percy Harvin, and
Yeah.
they were filthy that fantasy year. Oh,
Sidney Rice.
Sidney Rice. Sidney
Yeah.
Jones was a DB for.
He was a
the
DB we
Eagles.
drafted out of
Yeah,
Washington.
yeah.
Blah.
Mixing my Sidneys up.
Nah. Yeah, so yeah, Rodgers of the Jets has been dominating the news cycle. But one that I'm not a fan of this team, but I do like the guy, as I stated on February 2nd, as Austin brought the date up. Derek Carr
Mhm.
goes to the Saints, and I think that's a definite upgrade over Jameis Winston, who has agreed to stay and be the backup, and Andy Dalton. He's got some dang good weapons there. They just restructured Michael Thomas's deal, and you've got Chris Olave, you've got Marquez Callaway, former
A
Tennessee
really
Vol.
good defense. Really good
Got a
defense.
good defense. You've got Alvin Kamara,
Yeah.
and now you've got they signed Jamal Williams, right?
Yeah, I think they did.
So I mean, like that's a stacked deck, and they've put him in a position to definitely succeed. And Derek Carr's a very good guy. I think that we're going to see that the Raiders are just not very good when we get to our next point.
Mhm.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be in the same situation, but I think that this is a definite win for the Saints, and I think that this definitely, without a doubt, I don't think anybody's going to disagree, but it definitely makes them the favorite in that division next year.
It certainly makes him the favorite. I think, and I agree with you. I think it's good for Derek Carr, just because I mean everything that was happening in Vegas, what they were doing in Vegas didn't make any sense. They were re-signing Darren Waller and getting rid of him, and I mean the Josh Jacobs situation. They franchise tag Josh Jacobs. I think they
Yeah.
did. It's
Yeah.
just like they kind of have no vision of where they're going. So I felt like Derek Carr thought I need to get out of here, and he did. Good for him. The Saints have a great roster. They have a great fan base. I think they automatically become the favorites in the NFC South. I don't think there's any question about that. Also, think he becomes immediately the best quarterback in the NFC South until the
Yeah.
draft. I mean, as soon as the draft happens, that could possibly change unless they decide to take Will Levis with the first overall pick. The Panthers.
No.
Then he's still the best quarterback in the NFC South. But I think it's really good for Derek Carr. Really good guy. It just didn't work out in Vegas, and I think we can all agree that that's Vegas's blame on that.
Yeah. I
Also,
would agree.
I want to question: do you guys think that there's going to be any kind of like tampering investigation that might pop up with that one, due to the fact that he went and trained with them and tried out for the team before a trade, and then the Saints didn't take the trade, and then he was released and then immediately signed with the Saints?
It's possible. It wouldn't be
I
the
feel
first
like
time that
it
the
was
Saints have done something shady.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a conversation of, hey, don't trade for me. Don't waste the picks. Use them when I get there. I'll sign with you once they cut me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Well, the big question is, even if they do some kind of investigation, can they find proof? I
Probably
mean,
not.
that's what it's always about. I mean, I feel like this stuff happens all the time, and of course, the Dolphins got caught with it last year or whatever with Tom Brady. So, but rarely does anything actually come about it. So, I bet there was some sort of collusion in there in one way or another, tampering, whatever you want to call it.
Maybe they'll lose a pick or something.
Maybe.
Yeah,
We
that's
can't
what
find
happened to the
proof,
Dolphins.
But you lose a second. There you go.
Yeah.
And
At the end of the day, who cares? I mean, like, piss on the Raiders. They treated Derek Carr like garbage. They
Same
benched
with
him for.
they treated Darren Waller like garbage. I mean,
They did. They just up and got rid of him. So
after re-signing him, I mean, I just think, yeah.
well, yeah, I don't know if you heard all the inside side of that. Was it the GM talked about Darren Waller's wedding to a famous he talked
And
about the wedding.
he didn't get invited or something to that wedding.
it was
And he
it was
talked
it was
about it.
McDaniels. It was the head coach.
Was it?
Yeah,
He didn't get invited to the wedding, and yeah, they said
And
that
then
was a lot
Waller
of-
was Waller was pissed because it was supposed to be like a secret thing. They weren't putting it
Mm-hmm.
on the media, and then he put it out on blast at the draft combine, just like, oh yeah, Waller's getting married this weekend.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's just like, that would piss me off if that was
Yeah.
my plan. And
Yeah.
he asked for a
And-
trade to get out of there. So
And he got married to Las Vegas Aces WNBA star Kelsey Plum, and they're sitting there in the same city. And what's the best way to get back at him?
New York, yeah.
Yeah, best way to get back at him is ship him away.
Mhm.
So I think that that's pretty petty. We're talking about grown men being mad about like lunchroom drama, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Josh McDaniels is a dirtbag, so
I agree.
it's not the first. He's the reason Frank Reich left Philadelphia and has gone down this trajectory of suck because now he's with the Panthers. Because if he would have just taken the Colts job, then Frank probably would have stayed. I don't want to go down that, but he's a tool.
Is it just the Patriot way? Because like Patricia's a tool as well.
Yeah.
Patricia's a terrible coach too.
Yeah. Agreed.
He's also
Just a
tool.
terrible coach. He's horrible. Yeah, I mean he sucks. I mean I thought it was funny that he made Mac Jones mad because I don't like Mac Jones, but now it might be. It works for Bill because he's unbelievably successful. These other guys can't pull it off.
No.
But I kind of touched on this one, but Jimmy G's going to the Raiders. I feel like this is the most lateral move you could possibly make.
I literally have that written down here.
Really?
My notes say
lateral move. I literally put that yeah.
My notes say going from Derek Carr to Jimmy G is like going from Jimmy G to Derek Carr.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Derek Carr's probably better.
Yeah, my notes also say very lateral move there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
1,000%
Yeah.
lateral. Yeah.
That's insane.
I just think it's just a mediocre team getting a mediocre quarterback. We know what they're going to do next year. They're going to win 6 games to 9 games. Like that's what they're going to do. They'll probably miss the playoffs. They're going to rely on Josh Jacobs. He's going to have a ton of rushing yards because he's amazing and needs to get the hell out of there. And Devontae Adams is going to catch a lot of screen passes, right, and get a lot of yards. Maybe catch the occasional bomb, but Jimmy G can't throw the ball deep. So I just think it's just. I mean, why not just keep Derek Carr?
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
And I heard on ESPN radio this week where they're just like, the Raiders acquired Jimmy Garoppolo, a quarterback who got his team to the Super Bowl a few years ago. It's like, shut up. That was not Jimmy Garoppolo. I could have quarterbacked that team to the Super Bowl with the defense and the weapons that they had. You just throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage to Deebo Samuel and let him run. This is not this huge trade.
I mean, we saw Austin's favorite player, Brock Purdy, do the same thing and almost lead him to a Super Bowl. So
he sucks. He's a bum. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot to talk about here because Jimmy G is no better than Derek Carr, so it's just a very Raiders thing to do.
Oh, for sure.
So they're going to be pissed in Vegas because it's going to be the same situation. So this next one, I really want to dive into this because I'm very interested. Like, just straight up, what is going on with Lamar Jackson? How has nobody traded for him? Why are all these teams coming out saying we're out in Lamar? Why?
He's still a free agent right now, correct?
He got the non-exclusive tag from the Ravens, which means they franchise tagged him, but another team can make an offer, and if they don't,
kind of time to match that offer if he gets the offer, yeah.
And if they don't, then that the team that made that offer then gives the Ravens 2 first-round draft picks, and they get Lamar. If the Panthers are willing to trade 4 picks for an unproven player, why are you not going after Lamar? He won the MVP.
This is a 26-year-old former MVP we're talking about. This is a 26-year-old former MVP that are putting up statistics that we've never heard of. The biggest issue, I think, is he's wanting a fully guaranteed contract. And I think that the Ravens are saying, go out there, see if you can find an offer, see if you can see somebody who's going to give you that. Nobody's going to give him that because I think there's some sort of collusion going on. I think there's some sort of conversation going on between NFL teams that, hey, we gave this to Deshaun Watson, which, by the way, Lamar Jackson, way better.
1,000,000 times better.
Watson, so it's complete BS.
And we're not even talking about the cases. He's just a better player overall. You can't even look at the bad side of Watson.
Answer me this. If you're the Titans with Ryan Tannehill, if you're the Falcons, if you're the Commanders, I'm giving him a fully guaranteed contract, 100% right now. You talk about the Titans and how they wanted to put Derrick Henry on the trade block. Just imagine Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the same backfield. Just imagine that.
Why not?
Go for it.
Salary cap's fake anyway. Just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
They've got plenty of money. They've got plenty of money.
The Commanders' owner, is selling the team anyway. So if he signs him to a fully guaranteed contract, he's not going to be paying that contract. So why not just do it?
Well, that's because Dan Snyder's a moron. But
true.
But I agree with the also with the Falcons. Ritter is not the answer, dude.
Yeah,
he's not the answer. He is. he is mid at best. Like you can have Lamar Jackson, who, like you said, is still in his mid-20s. He's won the MVP before. All he does is win. I realize that his playoff history isn't great,
I
but
don't care. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Half of these teams we're talking about have no playoff success, anyways.
yeah,
So
and you can make the same argument for him that you make for Aaron Rodgers. Who the heck has he been thrown to besides Hollywood Brown? And they shipped him off last year.
Rashad Bateman, like
The Ravens have spent the second least out of any NFL team on offensive skill position players.
Yeah, you've got Mark
In the
Andrews,
last,
and
I
then
think it was 7 years.
Mark
Yeah.
Andrews in a revolving door of running backs because they keep getting hurt,
do
and
you-
he
do
still
y'all
does
really-
what he
do y'all
does.
think there's
All
some
those
sort of
running backs are
collusion going
under.
on?
Sorry, what?
Do y'all think there's some kind of collusion going on? Because
Yes,
I don't
100%.
Yeah, no,
I don't think
100%.
anybody's going to be able to ever prove it, but there's got to be. Because the only
Yeah,
thing that
no-
would make sense to me is that Lamar Jackson wanted a fully guaranteed contract. The Ravens said, "We're not giving you a fully guaranteed contract." So they put him on the franchise tag. They're like, "All right, go out there, find yourself an offer, see if you can get that fully guaranteed contract." And then there's conversations going on saying, "Don't offer him a fully guaranteed contract because he's going to come back to the Ravens and never going to find that fully guaranteed that he's looking for, even though he deserves it." Like,
Yeah.
That old dude club that is the owners, they're a conglomerate. They don't
Yeah.
break each other's rules. They don't step on each other's toes. Look at like players like Kaepernick. When Kaepernick was available again, it was no one touched him with the 10-foot pole because they were told not to. It's same
Mhm.
thing. It's just that
Yeah.
they work as like a unit to like if they want somebody to not get what their way is, they just
but what
I
was
don't
the
understand why you would want to do this to Lamar Jackson, though. Like, I think
I
I'm
agree.
not going to go down the Colin Kaepernick rabbit hole. I'm not going to do it
Yeah.
because people have very strong opinions about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I realized that Colin Kaepernick had regressed as a player, but he was still a lot better than some of the backups in the league. But then he had the off the field stuff. Whether or not you agree with it is neither here nor there. But I mean, he was serviceable enough to be a backup. But
was better
I
than-
mean, there were people who can make a really sorry excuse for why you wouldn't sign him. Lamar Jackson's not going to do anything but sell tickets.
he's a
That's
top,
all he's going to do.
easy a top 10 quarterback. And my question is Deshaun Watson a top 10 quarterback?
No shot.
So why in the hell are they able to make a fully guaranteed contract for Deshaun Watson, but not Lamar Jackson? Why?
I don't get it either.
Why?
It's really disheartening. And like Austin said, like besides the fact that Deshaun Watson is an absolute repugnant human being, he's not as good of a football player as
No.
Lamar Jackson.
He's not.
So I just don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense. But I hope somebody just says piss on everybody. Just takes one owner to say piss on the rest of y'all.
You know
I'll
what?
do it.
I hope it's not the Commanders.
I
think
hope
we
it's
can
not
all agree
either.
on that.
I hope it's not either because their defense is sneaky good.
I
You
know,
got Scary
I know.
Terry. You got Brian
our
Robinson.
division about to be really strong if that happens.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen.
finish
Please don't.
fourth, and I'm gonna cry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Which would still make Daniel Jones the worst quarterback in the division.
For sure.
But
he just got paid a bag.
And
Yeah,
for
good
our
for him, but he's
Good
not
for
worth
him.
it. Yeah.
And
I
I
could be
know
the
that
worst quarterback in the league and get that kind of money. I'd
Yeah.
throw all kinds of interceptions and do
Yeah.
everything. Honestly, who
You'd be
cares?
Dak
and I
Prescott.
know
Sign me
just
for a
because I
year. I
know-
don't care.
yeah, just because I know that our buddy Cam is going to watch this, big Giants fan. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be anti-Giants, but you know, it's hard not to be. And I know he's probably going to text me and say that DJ's better than Dak now, but I'm still not going to say that. But whatever, just somebody,
Yeah.
God, please save Lamar.
I agree. And I mean, I don't think they're ever going to find collusion, but we all kind of know
It's
something's going
happening.
on. Something's going
Yeah.
on.
So my next note, when I made the outline this week, I was very sad when I made this note. I'm not as sad now because
Darius Slay.
Slay's back. It was such an absolute roller coaster of emotions for a couple of days. You know, him seeking a trade and then us saying we're going to release him and then he's not released and then do the Ravens want him and where's he going to go? And
Yeah.
the Twitter, you know, people tweeting stuff, his wife tweeting stuff, you know, stuff blowing. Austin was sending me tweets all day long. And I'm trying to stay off of Twitter right now because it's Lent and I gave up social media, but like except for posting this stuff. But like it's very easy to see because Austin keeps me very updated. So I'm glad that Slay's back. And we re-signed Bradbury. We got Slay for a few more years too. And then we bring in Greedy Williams. who can now be under the tutelage of two very, very, very good veteran corners, two absolute studs. But we have lost some people this week. So, like I said earlier, TJ Edwards, who was an absolute tackling machine, found his way to the Chicago Bears. And I'm not mad at TJ for doing that. I mean, he had to get paid. He's a tackling machine. He's going to help the Bears. I have nothing against the Bears. It's fine. The thing that really made me sick, and Austin, there's more of them, but I'll let you touch on those. But the thing that made me sick was Javon Hargrave going to the 49ers. I
Especially
mean,
going to San Francisco out of all,
they're
yeah.
stacked, man. And he
Oh
had such
God,
a good
that
year.
defense, bro. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
he had such a good year, and he's going to be missed. We do have JD. I think that he just needs to stay healthy and he can step up, and he's young. With TJ, we've got Nakobe Dean, who me and Austin were absolutely lit about. I was in bed screaming, and then Austin called me and he was screaming. We drafted him because we wanted him in the first.
Yeah.
So, but losing Javon is definitely a big loss. But Austin, I'll let you touch on the rest of it.
I'm going to touch on Javon quickly. I think
Okay.
it's hilarious. What they needed in San Francisco was a run-stopping D tackle, and the one they grabbed is the one D tackle on the Eagles that could not stop the run. I think that's hilarious. When Javon Hargrave was in the game, it was a 5.6 yard per carry rush. Then when Jordan Davis was in the game, it was 0.9 yards per carry. And I'm totally okay with removing one and plugging the other. When you have edge rushers that we have, I don't care about that. As long as we can stop the run on the inside, those two will get home on the outside.
All right, pause. Hold
Dean
on real quick. I just want to say this real quick because Jordan Davis deserves it, and I say it all the time. Jordan Davis is like 6'6", 350 pounds, and runs a 4.8. Just saying. Go ahead. Sorry.
huge.
That's crazy,
Crazy.
actually. That's genuinely
Crazy.
nuts. His
Nakobe
body
Dean
should not be able to do that.
No. I
It
think he was
shouldn't.
I think he was the third fastest human at that weight.
That's
To
insanity.
run the 40, which is
It
disgusting.
makes no sense.
I couldn't run a 40 like that. No shot.
No, that's faster than I can run it.
That's
but
insane.
We have Nakobe Dean to fill the TJ hole. I'm not worried about either of those. The current problem I'm having at the moment is safety. We need to re-sign CJ Gardner-Johnson because we are screwed. We lost Marcus Epps, which we would always call Marcus Epps like a hitman. That guy was on the field just running around throwing shoulders. I said that he carried a knife on the field sometimes because he was just dangerous. He would hurt people. And we lost that. And right now we have Reed Blankenship and who's Jobe is our other option at the moment.
Josh Jobe. Yeah.
I don't want that. We need to bring in Gardner and maybe even draft Branch with the 30th.
We have Kavon Wallace, but he has been a complete non-factor. I'm fine. I think Reed Blankenship, he showed last year that he could step in and be an absolute Like I'm good with rolling with him at one of the safeties, but why is CJ Gardner-Johnson still not? Why has nobody signed him? Why have we not signed him? Why is
he in
why
free
is
agency right now or?
Yes. Why is Julian Love getting paid and CJ Gardner-Johnson isn't? Makes no sense.
Gardner's projected value is 13.5. The highest salary that was signed so far is 12 by Poyer. That really just showed him coming out. I think that's why we have a very good chance he's coming back home. But the market for safety they thought was going to be this booming market. They were going to pay him Poyer like 19 and everybody was going to get these crazy dollar amounts. They came out and like they're averaging all of the safeties together is 7.2 million. Like that's not a lot. I think he'll even have to sign for like 9 or 10, even though he was expecting this $13 million check for being the leading interception receiver.
Yeah, after missing like 7 games. But I think you see it with Poyer. Poyer was definitely testing his options, and what did he end up doing? Staying. Yeah, he's staying. So I pray that
it happens a lot.
I pray that CJ does stay in Philly because I'm a big fan of his and just the way he is. And I said it weeks ago. He embodies Philadelphia as a human being. But if he does not come back, and I sent something to Austin yesterday, Kevin Byard is about to get. The Titans are about to separate themselves from Kevin Byard. Yeah. Kevin Byard's a dog.
He's ridiculous.
So, if we do not get CJ Gardner-Johnson to re-sign with us, you make it priority 1 to go get Kevin Byard. That's
Or
what
you
I
don't. If you're a Cowboys fan, you say, "Don't do that, Philly." Pretty sure, pretty sure Kevin Byard led the all safeties and interceptions like 2 years ago. So
Yeah, I think he led
I
it
mean,
the 2 years ago and the year before.
yeah, so incredible. I didn't really want to touch on the Eagles too much because I know you guys know way more than I do. So on here, I've got to let you guys kind of touch on it. I was really surprised that Darius Slay when he was leaving, and then whenever I saw y'all got him back, I thought that was huge because your all secondary, whilst looked very good at times, it was also very suspect at times. I think about the Cowboys game back on Christmas Eve, right? I think about the Super Bowl, right? Like the secondary was a little suspect at times, and so depth is a big thing. I think Darius Slay was a big re-signing. Jason Kelsey returning,
Yep.
anybody? Like huge, right?
I was about to touch on that.
One of the best linemen in the league. I mean, I think we can all agree on that for sure.
He's the greatest center to ever play the game.
I agree 100%. And then re-signing Fletcher Cox and James Bradbury, I think was really big. And obviously, you lost some players, but you kind of have to because you know there's some big contracts coming up.
Yeah.
And so you can't expect all the big names to stay around, just kind of picking and choosing. I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson, though, is a big one that you all need to bring back.
Yeah.
We're also forgetting Brandon Graham, BG, the
Yeah,
guy
Brandon.
who
Yeah.
literally
He took
won us
he
our
took a
Super Bowl.
team-friendly deal.
He
Mhm.
did. They all did. Every
Yeah.
one of them did. Darius's one saves us $17.5 million. That's crazy.
Mhm.
Bradbury signed for $7 million under what he was projected to sign for. Came back home. He said, "Oh, I was offered a bag, but I wanted to play with my boys." And then
Yeah.
immediately they say they're releasing Slay. I was like, "That's who he came back for. What are you doing? You can't do that. You just is just
The text
Slay-
message exchange between me and Austin about Darius Slay was very toxic.
it was bad.
And then I woke up, and I'm gonna throw this in the middle of the football stuff because Jordan said something about talking about it. But I woke up to
Edwin Diaz.
Darius Slay re-signs is coming back to the Eagles, and then right under it from the 2 ESPN notifications, Edwin Diaz is injured in the World Baseball Classic. Celebrating.
Harry
And-
pushed out on a wheelchair.
Yeah. So while we take a break here from football, I'm just going to throw this out there. I am a Mets fan. I'm obviously biased, but last year there's really no debate. Edwin Diaz was the best closer in baseball last year.
He's the best player on the Mets overall. I think 100%.
I don't know about that, but
I think so. I mean, I value pitching, but I think Edwin Diaz, just talent-wise, in his position, is so much better than everybody else. It's not even close when it comes to closers. That's why I think he's the best player on the team.
yeah, yes. And I love Edwin Diaz. I love the trumpets. Literally before he went viral for the trumpets, I would play that song randomly in the house and just annoy my wife, and she ended up vibing with it. And so I'm really sad I'm not going to get to hear the trumpets this year. But the big conversation that's come out around this that I've heard on the radio and I've read articles about on ESPN is that the World Baseball Classic is stupid and it's worthless and it's not worth getting injured for. And I think that is maybe the most ethnocentric way to look at this that you possibly could, because look at what it means to these guys to represent their country. Look at what it means to the fans.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second. I actually just saw something this morning that said in Japan, 89% of households watch their 89% of households watch the quarterfinal in the WBC. That's what it means to these people. And it means more to the players than it does the fans to play for their country, just like the World Cup does. So I think it's complete BS to say that these players that are in the MLB shouldn't go represent their country.
Do you know that only in Japan they have their own Major League Baseball in Japan?
Yeah.
And there's only 2 of the Japanese Americans that made the team from the MLB. I just want to point that out. They are such a booming baseball industry, and Shohei Ohtani is the greatest baseball player in the world. I'll give him that at the moment.
Yeah.
He can pitch 102 miles an hour and hit a 500-foot bomb. It's just crazy. But there's only 2 guys that made it from the majors that are Japanese. I think there was 12 that are on rosters. You think we're the best at baseball. Obviously, this is the pedigree. Nope. They had their whole lineup was homemade, and that's crazy. I mean, so was the Czechoslovakian team, and they had a teacher, 2 gym teachers, an electrician, and a plumber who are all on their lineup. The starting pitcher was a history teacher, and he's out here throwing 79 miles an hour and just saucing it from the mound. Love
Dirty.
it.
Wait. Didn't he strike out Shohei Ohtani with like
He
a
struck
79
out the
mile an hour
first
fastball?
3 batters in 9 pitches against Japan. Filthy.
Shouts out
Filthy.
my fellow history teacher for doing some work. So
I
yeah,
think, I think the one thing about because I saw something where they asked like some of the players that are in the MLB plus the WBC what championship they'd rather win, whether it be a World Series or a WBC, and it was like 90% of them picked a WBC because they have that pride, and most of the like the pride of their country, and
Yeah.
it's just like the World Cup, and honestly, like the MLB is probably the most renowned baseball league in the world, but a lot of MLB players come from the Dominican Republic. They come from Cuba. They come from Mexico. All these places where they go back home, they get to represent what they grew up in. You know, their family and their friends and their cousins and everybody. Like, so that's what it's all about. And I understand the whole like the whole owner's point of, well, we pay these guys and we're not paying them to go out there and do it. And if they get hurt, we still have to pay them. But that's a risk you're going to take because these guys could get hurt carrying grocery bags up a stairs. Who was it? Who was it that got hurt carrying grocery bags up the stairs? It was out for literally the entire season. It was a pitcher. I don't remember who it was. Or flying a drone. Hashtag Trevor Bauer. Like that
Yeah.
could happen, right?
Wasn't there a Dodger who dropped a suitcase on his foot too? Like
Probably. You're probably
I'm
right.
90% positive it was before a playoff matchup versus us, and we're like, look at how great this is, and then they still beat us.
Freddie Freeman got hurt for Canada
Yeah.
too. Tweaked his hamstring. He should be all right. But I mean, I would never sit here and be mad at him for going and playing
Right.
in the WBC because he
No.
and he gets hurt. It sucks, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, Francisco Lindor got hurt shutting his hand in a car door last year.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. Let
Devin
these guys
Williams
go
got
represent
drunk.
their countries. Like,
Devin Williams got drunk and punched a brick wall, and he broke his hand, was out a whole
yeah,
year.
I mean, people
Yeah.
make stupid decisions. I mean, so at the end of the day, just shut up and stop looking at things through your closed mindedness. If you're one of those people out there saying, "Oh, World Baseball Classic does more harm than good," shut up. Just shut up.
Yeah.
So now we will transition. Jordan, I'll let you take the lead on this. Talk about what the Cowboys have done.
Yeah, so the Cowboys, I think they made a lot of big moves in the offseason so far in the free agency. So obviously the number one is the Stephon Gilmore. We said it whenever we talked about like draft needs for our teams. We needed another cornerback across of Trayvon Diggs. Stephon Gilmore, he's not what he used to be. I understand he's getting up there in age, whatever. I'm just excited to see Jerry Jones actually do something in the offseason because he really doesn't go out there and get big name free agents in the offseason. So I think that's big to see a glaring need that the Cowboys had, which was number 2 cornerback. And even if he's not what he used to be, he's going to bring like leadership and he's going to bring depth at the cornerback position because I think we have good young cornerbacks, but he's going to be able to jump right in. But really, the main thing I want to talk about is Zeke, right? I mean, when Zeke first jumped in his rookie season, he was so good at carrying balls, right? Like he just was the best running back in the league his rookie year, and I don't think anybody can disagree with that. He had 1,631 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5.1 yards per carry. Compare that to last season. Last season, he only had 876 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. Huge drop off. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way he runs. Like he's always seeking contact. That's the kind of runner he is. And so I think that he just dropped off because running backs don't have a huge shelf life. And I think Zeke's a perfect example of that. Also, it's becoming very clear that the Cowboys are going with Tony Pollard as the number 1 running back. I think we really
As they
started to see
should.
that. Yeah, as they should. We saw that really starting 2 years ago. I mean, last season was way more Pollard than it was Zeke. He was the big game player and everything, but 2 years ago really saw Pollard start to really get incorporated in the offense more. I think it's awful that like his last play as a Cowboy is going to be him playing center and getting destroyed, right? Like that's such a horrible way for him to go out because I mean, I have to honor him for what he did. His rookie season, again, you drafted him 4th overall. You're taking a chance taking a running back 4th overall. He jumped into the league, was the best running back in the league. There's no debate. That year, he was the best back in the league, and probably his second year, despite the fact that he had that suspension at the start of his second year. Also, never forget him jumping in the Salvation Army kettle, things like that. You know, as a Cowboys fan, I just love it. Also, I'm never going to count out the fact that he's done as a Cowboy, because we talk about people getting cut, leaving in free agency, not getting what they want. Is there any chance that he can come back, sign a veteran minimum with Dallas, because I know he's got a good relationship with Jerry Jones, and be Tony Pollard's backup? I'm not counting that out. I'm just being honest, because
Would you want that?
I don't know if I would want that, but also like I think he's still to this day one of the best goal line running backs in the NFL. Just
Yeah.
pure size, pure size. He's a bowling ball. Do I want that though? If we can get him for the veteran minimum, yeah, why not? Right? Like he could be a good backup, third and short, whatever. But it was time to move on, and I mean, again, you asked me, do I want that? I don't really feel one way or another. I wouldn't be mad at it, but if we do take him back, he's going to have an extremely decreased role because he's not a 1st and 10 running back. He's just not.
No. It's Pollard's team, and he proved that. Tony Pollard is going to be, regardless of his injury, he's going to be a very popular pick in fantasy football in the upcoming season.
For sure.
Which just saying that makes me very excited for whenever fantasy football season comes on, because this podcast is going to be popping.
Yep.
But I think that they've made the right decision. I want to ask you a question though. Would you, since you don't really have a strong opinion either way, would you rather the Cowboys have him as a backup on like a veteran minimum contract, or would you rather draft a running back, say, second or third day to play second fiddle to Tony Pollard?
I'd rather draft somebody.
Yeah.
Because Pollard, I mean, okay, so he had the injury this year. You just don't know. I mean, hopefully he comes back. They said he would come back 100%. I hope so. But if he doesn't, then you need to have a backup that's formidable. Zeke isn't a lead back, and he just won't be a lead back anymore. Whereas a rookie running back, you just never know. I mean, you see guys like Breece Hall. You just don't know what you're getting in a running back. It's all about youth. It's all about being healthy. So I'd rather drop down and take somebody young.
I feel that. And me and Austin have done multiple mock drafts where we take like a running back late in the draft, which I'd like to see the Eagles do. Get like an Eric Gray or a Muhammad Ibrahim from Minnesota, or the really fast Chain, whatever his name is, kid from Texas A&M. Like that's, I'd prefer us do that than I mean, we signed Rashad Penny.
A-Chain?
But A-Chain, whatever. But it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see that. I'm interested to see Tony Pollard as the lead back. I hate the Cowboys. I do not hate Tony Pollard. I think he's a fairly likable player. Yeah. He's very good. He played at Memphis.
And you have to say, even if you hate the Cowboys, it sucked seeing him get hurt against the 49ers, man.
It did. I mean, it changed the game.
Kid. Yeah. I hated it for the Cowboys, but I really hated it for him.
And one of my students, who is one of our listeners, shout out to him, made me feel really old this week because he said that he was sad that Zeke was getting released because, quote, that was my childhood.
Oh my God.
Oh my, I'm old.
Yeah,
he got drafted in 2016.
We were out of college when he got drafted.
I graduated high school 2016. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you're a baby.
Yeah, he is a baby. Never forget Jared. Never forget 14-year-old Jared working at Food City with me. But that's
a different
story for a different day.
Different podcast.
Yeah. So anyway, next point on the list is Baker Mayfield is going to Tampa Bay, which is interesting.
Yeah.
You are bringing Baker Mayfield in. Baker Mayfield is kind of a very confusing player because you've seen the guy be the quarterback of the Browns, take them to the playoffs, win a playoff game with the Cleveland Browns. But then you've also seen him be, the scapegoat for this. Yeah, the scapegoat for the Browns. Getting rid of him, signing douchebag face, and then him going to the Panthers and them throwing him under the bus. But then you see him go to the Rams and know the playbook for less than 48 hours and lead a 98-yard touchdown drive. Absolutely trounce the Broncos. It's interesting to see Baker go into the Bucks. Do you all think he's going to be their starter?
Yes.
Day one, yeah.
Do you think he'll be their? Do you think he'll be their starter at the end of the season?
No.
Depends who they draft.
It depends on who they draft, but I also think they want to give Kyle Trask a chance. But I also think they don't want to just throw him into the fire. So I think that they got Baker Mayfield to kind of be the starter to begin with. If Baker Mayfield comes out and does what he did in his first game with the Rams, then yeah, he could be the starter at the end of the season. I just think that their plan is to have him go out there and be the starter to begin with, and then they want to move on to Kyle Trask, but they don't want to not have any other options. So I think Baker Mayfield is going to be the starter on day one. I don't see him being the starter in Week 18.
I think that it's a low risk situation. You bring Mayfield in. If he does not perform, you can see what you have in Trask.
Yeah,
If he doesn't perform,
you can
then
go back to Mayfield.
you can go draft quarterback next year. Maybe you suck really bad. You can go make a play for Caleb Williams, or you can make a play for Drake May or somebody like that. So it's very low risk. And if he does succeed, then you look like a genius and you have your quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think that is I think that's a sneaky good decision by the Bucks to do that. Just because there's just no risk. Like where if you compare that to the Raiders signing Jimmy G and how stupid that is, I think that this Baker thing is, and they're in a different situation, obviously.
They have
With
weapons too. I mean, who knows
Yeah.
how long they're going to have these weapons or what their plan is with them, but they have weapons, right? Like, so
You've got Godwin, you've got Evans, Rashad White kind of emerged as a very good pass catching back last year.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. They've got some pieces on defense that they're bringing back Dean and seeing it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Sean Murphy Bunting. But I like Baker Mayfield. Like I do. I like him. I thought he was very fun to watch at Oklahoma, and I hope that he has success with the Bucks.
I'm just worried that he maybe doesn't have the mentality to be a long-term starter in the NFL, and that's what makes me think that he could be like a journeyman. So I've got written down here, so he could be the next NFL journeyman, where he goes into a team like the Bucks, who are in kind of a transition period, where you're going from Tom Brady to a young quarterback. You need somebody who can kind of carry the weight, aka Ryan Fitzpatrick. Same sort of, he's got the ability, he's got the talent. We've seen sparks, whatever. But he's not really got the ability to take you 17 games, get you into the playoffs, win a playoff game, whatever. I just don't know if he's got that anymore. We saw it the 1 year with the Browns. Consistency is the thing with Baker Mayfield. But I agree. If he can go back to what he was when he was, early in Cleveland or, Oklahoma, all the potential in the world's still there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Since, Jared probably doesn't have an opinion about this because he doesn't really care, but since the rest of us are NFC East fans, does Darren Waller to the Giants concern you at all?
Not even in the slightest, and there's one reason why.
Daniel Jones?
His name is Daniel Jones. And it's piss ass franchise gave him a freaking bag. And that is the reason that I don't have to ever worry about the Giants for the next 4 years. Because they are paying way too much money to a guy who can't throw. He played good against the 31st ranked defense, and everybody was riding him. And it's just, he's garbage. He can only run. And when he runs, he trips and falls on his own big feet. So it doesn't even matter. He's useless. And I don't care if he's throwing to Darren Waller. The only problem with it was I'm a Daniel Bellinger dynasty fantasy owner, and I was happy for his upside, and now it's just
Yeah.
So,
I love Darren Waller. I hate it. I honestly, I love it for Darren Waller, the fact that he's getting out of the mess that is the Las Vegas Raiders. But I also think that, like, he's kind of got himself in a situation with Daniel Jones, who's a quarterback who could be a pretty decent game manager, but his ceiling is very low. So I just think that, like, Darren Waller, in my mind, is one of the best tight ends in the league, but he doesn't have enough, I don't know, talent, whatever you want to call it, to, get rid of the averageness of Daniel Jones. Like, he's always going to just be mediocre. So I'm not worried about it. I don't think it changes the Giants' offense that much. More worried still about Saquon Barkley than I will ever be about anything that you add to a Daniel Jones offense.
Yeah.
And I
I
feel
agree.
like we only have a couple more years of worrying about Saquon Barkley, and it'll be the exact same Zeke situation. So
Yeah.
Exactly right.
it's
Yeah.
that team's not worrying me at all. Eagles, Cowboys will both hang 40 on their heads, and it won't be a problem.
Yeah. Remind them who they are. Darren Waller is a player that I got to actually see play at Georgia Tech, and he was a receiver at Georgia Tech, just a big body receiver. That's when Paul Johnson was the head coach. They were running the triple option. And he was just a big body who could block in that triple option offense, who could occasionally sneak behind people, make big plays because of who he is. Of course, coming into the league, he had some off the field issues that he's battled through, which is, now he like Jordan said, he's without a doubt a top 5 tight end in the league if he's healthy. So I hate that the Raiders did him dirty. I hate that he's in our division, and I hate that I don't think that it's going to help his career trajectory. Um, I mean, the Giants, I think that their ceiling is exactly what we saw this year. I think we saw their ceiling this year. They're not going to be better than.
with
They're
Daniel
not
Jones.
going to. Yeah, they're not with Daniel Jones as your quarterback. You know, I don't think Daniel Jones is a bum,
I don't
but I
think
think that he is
his
a
ceiling.
very.
His ceiling is Kirk Cousins. Like that's
I
his
think
ceiling.
he's a very middle of the pack quarterback. So, you know, good for Darren Waller for getting away from the mess, like you said. But at the same time, you know, he's away from his wife now. He's away from what he knows, and now he has to play with Daniel Jones. So, um, so the next question, our last question of tonight's podcast, is who has won free agency so far? And for me, it's the first team that I talked about. First team we talked about, it's the Chicago Bears. The acquisitions that they made on defense, they also got Robert Tunyon, who isn't gonna blow the doors off you at the tight end position, but you pair him with Cole Kmet. They got Deontay Foreman. I think that they've made some sneaky good moves, and like we said at the top, he's now got a number one receiver. Fields is a number one receiver. They need to make sure that they are protecting him. I don't know if they're going to if Jalen Carter drops to them. I don't know that they're going to be able to pass up on him, even though he looked horrible at his pro day.
He did.
He looked horrible. But I mean, I think if I'm the Bears, there you draft a offensive lineman. You draft the
Well, you
one.
have to.
You draft one of the guys from Ohio State, or you draft the Skoronsky dude from Northwestern. I think that's what you have to do here to make sure to keep him upright. You can probably grab a Nate Dell from Houston, who had a huge year last year statistically. In like the third round, you might be able to get him in third, fourth round. You know, these little known receivers have shown that they can come in and make an impact.
Yeah.
So that's who I have. I think the Bears have won free agency so far, and it's funny because Austin said that he had them as a sleeper for next year, and right now I would very much agree with that. I think that they
they
can
might
very
be
much
the favorite in the NFC North at this point.
no
If you're
blinds.
if you're looking at
Lions.
Aaron Rodgers, huh?
Go Lions.
If I mean, okay, I said that I think the Lions. I mean, if Rodgers is gone, but I mean, like honestly, you give DJ Moore to Justin Fields, I think the Bears could be one of the favorites in the NFC North. I wouldn't be surprised, and to go from literally the worst record in the NFL to being even in contention for the playoffs 1 year later is nuts. But I think they have that potential. I agree with you. I think it's the Bears, but I also would throw in the Jets. I think the Jets are right up there with it because they had to make a splash move. They went out and made a splash move. All of a sudden, they go from a joke in the AFC. You put Aaron Rodgers with the weapons. You add Alan Lazard. You have that defense in New York. I think the Jets have won free agency as long as they can sign Aaron Rodgers and or trade for him, whatever. But I mean, I agree. I think it's the Bears. I'm excited to see Justin Field play with those weapons. Also, I think something that could be a sneaky, decent free agent signing for the Bears is Ezekiel Elliott. You add that to the backfield with Deontay Foreman, it's just another weapon. It's just another goal line. Just imagine, Justin Fields and Zeke running the option there from the 1-2 yard line. That's tough. So I don't know. I think it's the Bears. I think it's the Jets. I think that's pretty clear for me.
And my pick was definitely the Jets with the Aaron Rodgers situation, and then like I
Mhm.
said, like actually surrounding him with a halfway decent team, I think that he can kind of flourish there in New York. But it all just kind of depends on like what you guys said earlier of like what Aaron Rodgers do you even get? Do you get the drama queen one, or do you get the one that's actually going to show up and play ball? I think
Sure.
that kind of all depends.
Absolutely.
I got 3 names, not teams, just 3 names that won free agency, in my opinion. The first one is a Mr. Howie Roseman from the Philadelphia Eagles. The man is putting on a master class of how to move around money, move your players, and do everything you need to do to bring your guys back in and stay underneath that salary cap. He is saving money. You're watching one deal is saving to the next deal is adding, saving, adding, saving, adding. He started with $6 million. We have 12 additions onto the team right now. $6 million he started with. That's insane to think about. My second name is Drew Rosenhaus, the agent. Guy is he's the master class of agents. He's like, look at the Slay situation just shows it all. He tells him that, oh, well, we need a trade. We need out of here if you're not going to give me a deal. Oh, we're going, fine. That's fine. We'll trade you. I don't care. Okay, cool. He's looking for a deal, comes back, says he can't find one. Boom, fine. We'll just cut you. Okay, now he's got a deal lined up with the Ravens. Boom, comes back. Now he's got an extended deal. He makes $42 million more than he was going to, but it doesn't affect the salary cap because Howie Roseman and him are both the best in the business. My third name, very unexpected. This one's going to throw James for a loop. Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, 9 years later, after trying everything in his best to bring Marcus Mariota to the Philadelphia Eagles, he is wearing the green this year. He has a wing on the side of his helmet. Congratulations, Chip Kelly. We've done it. Marcus Mariota's an Eagle.
You know what? I shouldn't be surprised by that. I think I said that a couple of weeks ago. I said Mariota's going to be an Eagle. It just makes too much sense. He fits the system. He proved last year he's not a starter, but he is a very serviceable backup, and he fits that system. He can't stay healthy if you have to rely on him for a whole season. But yeah, I found that very funny. And one of my students told me that Chip Kelly was trending on Twitter, and I was like, that's apropos. So one more question before we get out of here, going back to, talking about the Jets and talking about Aaron Rodgers, because it just kind of popped in my head. Other than Devontae Adams, has Aaron Rodgers had a weapon with the skill and the upside of Garrett Wilson?
I don't know about that. Jordy Nelson has to be up there in that conversation, right?
But I'm talking about like athleticism.
You talk about the athleticism.
Jordy Nelson.
You also talk about the upside. I don't. No, I mean Garrett Wilson is ridiculous. Like he should have. Like, was he offensive rookie of the year?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so. I was about to say he should have been, but I thought he was. Yeah. So no, I mean, also the question is, where does he fall in line with Alan Lazard? I think that's just another piece. So, but no, I mean, if he ends up with Alan Lazard and Garrett Wilson, that's tough. That's tough.
Garrett Wilson's wide receiver 1 on that team, and obviously it's very early to tell because the kid's only played 1 year in the NFL, but he thrived with Joe Flacco and Mike White and Zach Wilson throwing the ball to him.
Mm-hmm.
So
he actually did better with Flacco and
White
ever did with Wilson. But to stand what he was saying with Jordy Nelson, being a high schooler at the time of Jordy Nelson's peak, there was a thing at A&W where you got a burger for 87 cents, and it was a double cheeseburger with their like island sauce, and it was 87 cents you could get this burger for. And it was only if Jordy Nelson scored a touchdown. Do you know how many weeks of that year I was at A&W standing in a line with other high schoolers and about 50 people deep? Every week. This man would score every week we were eating Jordy burgers. And it became such a thing that they had to make it the Eddie Lacy burger, and it became $1.27.
Eddie freaking Lacy.
He probably tried to score because he probably wanted to go eat as many of them burgers as he could get his hands on. Yeah, I bet he was. No, I mean, Jordy Nelson was a guy that I had on my fantasy team many years. I probably had him on that team the year.
Jordy Nelson was phenomenal. We have breaking news here on A2J2 podcast. For the second time in NCAA history, a 16 seed has beat a 1 seed. Fairleigh Dickinson has officially beaten Purdue.
Oh my God.
63-58. Fairleigh Dickinson beat Purdue.
Yeah, the brackets are definitely busted with that one.
Yeah, 2 of my Final Four teams are gone. I had Purdue in the championship game.
That is insane.
There you go.
That's bonkers. If only it could have been Kansas. But
well, hold on. I picked them as my champion. Let's chill out. I think Austin
did. Piss on Kansas.
No, I had Houston.
Oh, you had Houston? Okay.
I have Houston as well. They did not look good last night, though.
No, they didn't. And plus, Sasser got hurt again.
Yeah, he's their best player.
Yep.
But I will point out, of this podcast, I feel like I've hit the most as being the clairvoyant. I was the only one to get the 4-1 seeds right. I've predicted a lot of things in here. The only thing I couldn't predict was the sod father, and you don't raise your hand over there.
There's one other thing you didn't predict. Who won the Super Bowl?
I said the sod father. The sod father is the problem there, right?
Hold on.
Get out of here.
I also have a question. I realize you made some really good calls, but is there a better call than Aaron Rodgers going to the woods doing drugs?
I mean, he did do
Fair, but
that.
that's like
and
his
then he went
lifestyle.
into my face, so.
Pretty sure I picked him doing that. Just throwing that out there.
My boys, this
Throw
has
that
been
out
this has been a phenomenal podcast, guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely phenomenal.
absolutely.
A lot of fun today.
It has.
Thanks for
I
having
need
me.
to get out of here too because I'm leaving for the beach tomorrow. So A2J2 takes the
We're gonna
beach.
try to watch the end of this Kentucky basketball game. 2 minutes left. So,
Yeah.
Jared, appreciate you being here, buddy.
Happy to be here. Guys.
Absolutely. Thank you to Jared for stepping in. You know, he got his first start in AA last week, and he got the call up to the bigs tonight. So Jared,
That was
thank
a
you.
quick one.
Thank you for coming in here and stepping in for us and
Of course.
being our fourth tonight. And thank everybody for watching the podcast. Thank you for subscribing. If you don't, please subscribe, like, follow us on all of our social medias. And thank you for tonight watching the A1J3 podcast.